going onto Google Maps and dropping into a random location and trying to guess where it is? Do you do that?
I did do the analog version of that as a kid. I remember I had a globe, and you spin the globe and put your finger down wherever it stops. And I remember there was some small town in India that I told myself I'm going to visit this place because it was like the first time I tried it. And I was like, wherever my finger lands is like where I'm going to go visit. And I still haven't been there, but it's on the list.
Eventually, when somebody comments on your Instagram and says, "Come to India," you're like, "I'm working on it."
Believe me, since I was 12.
I love that. Joining us now in the Zoom room, a fella named Paper Idol. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. So you've got this really interesting, catchy song out. It's called Sidewalks. Takes us back to a time when we weren't all buried in this 24/7. So I want to issue a challenge for you. You ready to start with a challenge?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. You may not know it off the top of your head or whatever, but maybe we can look it up. Do you happen to know, are you an iPhone user first? Let's start there.
I am an iPhone user, yes.
Okay. What is your screen time average for this week?
Oh man. That's too much of a challenge. I can't even look it up. It's I think it's single digits though per day at least.
Okay. Yeah, I've been working hard on getting mine down as well, so I feel the challenge.
It's not easy, huh?
It's not. But let's talk about that theme right there. So trying to detach from our new hyper digital world, go back to a time when, it was just like, hey, let's just play on the sidewalk with our friends. What was your favorite game to play with your friends as a kid growing up that was like actually outside?
One of our favorites was, I grew up in like a suburb of Milwaukee. And so we had just like, these long, wide, sort of winding roads. And what we would do is go outside and we'd have like, let's say I was with 4 people, 2 of us would go on one side of the road and 2 of us on the other. And then basically right before a car came, I don't know if you have ever done this, but like we would pretend to pull up a rope that it wasn't there at all. It was just, it was an invisible rope, but almost every time the car would slow down and yell at us. And that was probably our favorite game.
Wow. So you liked getting in trouble then. It sounds like you were a mischievous kid.
Yeah, it was always pretty innocent stuff, but just a little bit.
Now you've got a little mischief going on in your career as Paper Idol. You describe yourself on Twitter as the maker of Delusional Pop. So I'm not a therapist, but let's dive into that. What is delusional about your pop music that you make?
I have to say that my bandmate Adam actually coined the term delusional pop because we were trying to think of a way to kind of sum it up in a couple words. I guess I think a big theme in my music lyrically is sort of diving into a world that doesn't exist, whether it's your past or whether it's being a different character, or it's some alternative reality. I have a couple songs in that vein, and so there's always this sort of dreaminess to the song concepts, and Delusional Pop kind of summed it up. Hopefully It's not too negative.
No. I mean, I feel like delusional is a word that gets thrown around a lot these days online, so it's lost a lot of the sharp edge, I guess. It's cool to be delusional. I'm delusional sometimes.
Great.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better.
Now, if you start seeing me in your delusions, then we've both got something going on.
True. Okay. Yeah. I'll look out for that.
A similar theme on your website. You talk about how you make music for a generation that's just dying for an escape. And I mean, God damn, you look around right now, we need that escape more than ever. What helps you escape though? Like, you can't possibly do it all by yourself and then only help other people.
How does the escape artist for other people actually escape himself?
Yes.
I do think that it's the process for me of writing, process of producing, has been like the most amazing escape. When I'm really, really in the zone, especially with production. The same goes for lyrics and poetry and performance, but when I'm really in the studio and producing, I can go long periods where I just feel like I'm just in a different place. I forget about everything about what's going on outside. I'm really in the song. That to me has been like the best escape, I would say. Yeah.
So essentially, the making of the escape. It's almost like the cliche, the journey is the destination for you in a way.
Exactly. Yep.
Huh. Okay, very cool. Now
Mhm.
that leads to, if we're talking about journeys, that leads to a little geocaching, geotagging contest that you did on Instagram not too long ago. Tell me about that. Where did that come from? What was the origin story? How did you go about executing it? And just, I guess, to sum it all up, why?
We found that as far as my fans on Instagram, they love games and contests. They're big fans of that. And so it's been fun kind of just before most releases, I'll do some sort of contest, something to keep them in the loop on what's happening, but still having fun, and they get to win a t-shirt or something like that. Um yeah, that, and this is another one where my bandmate Adam, who's not here right now, but he actually did a lot of the execution of that. And I basically pulled a bunch of sidewalk photos from the fans themselves. So from people on Discord and people on Instagram said send me sidewalks, and they sent me a photo of a sidewalk and the location. And so it was kind of fun using their actual hometown sidewalks to against them in the game. So yeah, it's sidewalk related. It's a good time. And yeah.
Is that something that you're personally into as well? Like the whole geotagging, geocaching, going onto Google Maps and dropping into a random location and trying to guess where it is? Do you do that?
I don't do that, but I did do the analog version of that as a kid. I remember I had a globe, and I would like spin the globe and I don't know if you ever did that, but you spin the globe and put your finger down wherever it stops. And I remember there was some small town in India that I told myself I'm going to visit this place because it was like the first time I tried it. And I was like, wherever my finger lands is like where I'm going to go visit. And I still haven't been there, but it's on the list. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So eventually, when somebody comments on your Instagram and says, come to India, you're like, I'm working on it.
I believe me, since I was 12.
I love that. All right. Another one. I want to go back. So
Sure.
we're doing a retrospective here, I guess. I'm going to go back to one of your previous success stories, a song called James Bond. And you can tell a lot about a person based on who they associate as the James Bond. Like for me, full disclosure, first one that I ever watched was Pierce Brosnan. So to me, Pierce Brosnan is the James Bond, and all the others are just older or younger versions of him. What about for you? Which actor is the James Bond for you?
Believe it or not, and you're the only other person I've met who agrees with me, but it's Pierce Brosnan for me
Wow.
too, which is really funny.
That
Um,
is.
yeah, we can't really tell people, they get mad.
We are a couple of Pierce Brosnan bros living in a Sean Connery world.
That's true, exactly. But sometimes I convince myself Pierce Brosnan really does. He does have the look. I think objectively, there's something James Bondy about him, and it's it could be something real there.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Excellent casting.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Okay, good. Last one for you. This is pretty obvious. I feel like you've probably answered this before, so forgive me for going too cliche with it. But the artist name is Paper Idol. Who are your idols?
Let's see. I mean, so I grew up actually as a classic rock kid. So I was like a really big, like Led Zeppelin, Hendrix, Beatles, of course, all that. That's really my background is classic rock stuff, and I played in a lot of rock bands, and that was sort of the scene. So those are still huge influences as far as the songwriting and the live energy too. I feel like it's sort of unmatched since then. And then from a production perspective, I'm I'm really into like the sort of the sort of newer future-based stuff that's coming out, like Flume, Lewis the Child, obviously, but also like more Kismet doing some really cool stuff, and you know, the Disclosure stuff, but like all the dance music that's happening right now, I'm also very inspired by. So it's definitely a mix of those two worlds.
Because
Yeah,
I was gonna say, when you turn on Sidewalks, you don't hear Led Zeppelin, you don't hear the Beatles. You
that's
know,
true.
think that do you think there's a strain of that though in there somewhere?
I think so. Yeah, and you know, in between my classic rock and my, you know, dance music phase was definitely this like, you know, alternative, like Beck, Franz Ferdinand, The Strokes, Gorillaz, that sort of like newer, not newer, but a couple decades old alternative music. Um, and so I feel like that influence is maybe even stronger, like the, you know, the Beck, White Stripes energy I try to bring into the music.
Definitely, especially, you know, if you look at some of Beck's more eclectic records, or maybe an artist like Passion Pit that kind of bridges the gap between electronic but still at the same time rock. That's kind of the lane that you see yourself falling into as well.
Yeah, I would say so. And one special thing that I like to do that is that's a bit different, I would say, from those artists um is keeping it in one sort of genre for like a concise piece of the song, and then completely switching it during the chorus or something like that. So that's a habit, a production habit I've fallen into, is like, oh, it sounds like this could be like an alt pop song, and then it's like, you know, trap drop or something.
Right. Well, I mean, that's specifically what we hear in Sidewalks. You hear a lot of kind of alternative styled percussion through the verses, and then it just has this massive drop with this heavy bass underneath.
Yeah,
That it's a fun mix, I guess. You find that to be sort of fun to subvert expectations.
exactly. Yes. And you hear that in Clouds and I'm Fantastic, a couple older tunes that have that same concept of taking you on a, you know, what they call it, a garden path sentence or
Yeah.
something where,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. You don't quite know what the next step is going to be.
exactly.
Nice. Well, all I can say is well done on that one. Sidewalks out now. Check it out. And Paper Idol is a name that we're getting to know now. I guess you've had a couple of songs that have done really well, and I'm hoping that this is going to be the next one in your journey. I'm hoping to see a lot more from you in the future, because you may have been able to pick up from my tone of voice. I like it when artists surprise me. I like it when they subvert expectations, when they mash genres together. So I can say, good on you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And lucky for Paper Idol fans, there's a lot of music coming out this year.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, man. Thank you for your time here. It was great to get to know you.
Thank you. Yeah, this was super fun.